The research station floated in the darkness of space. It circled a giant planet made of gas and storms. The planet had no name. It was too far from everything to matter. That was why they had built their station here. They wanted peace. They wanted quiet. They wanted to study the stars without anyone bothering them. Researcher Vel stood at the main control room and looked at the screens. There were thin creatures with long limbs and large dark eyes. They had soft gray skin and gentle voices. In all their history, they had never fought a war. They did not believe in violence. They believed in knowledge and understanding. They had 47 scientists aboard. They studied old signals from distant galaxies. They mapped stars that no one had ever seen. It was peaceful work, safe work. Until today. Vel saw the warning light first. It was red and it was blinking. That light had never blinked before. Vel pressed a button and the main screen changed. What appeared made Vel's blood turn cold. Ships, many ships. They were coming out of faster than light travel at the edge of the system. Vel counted them. 10, 20, 30. 30 warships with black hulls and weapons that glowed with ugly red light. Vel knew those ships. Every species in the galaxy knew those ships. There were raiders, they were slavers, they were killers. They traveled from system to system and took whatever they wanted. They burned worlds that refused to give them tribute. They captured people and sold them as slaves. No one stopped them because no one could stop them. Their fleet was too strong. Their warriors were too brutal. And now they were here. Vel's hands were shaking. The other in the control room were starting to panic. Some were crying. Some were praying to gods that would not answer. None of them had ever faced danger like this. They were scientists. They were not soldiers. The communication screen lit up. A face appeared. The creature had rough red skin and 4 eyes that burned with hunger. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth. Behind it, Vel could see more laughing and pointing at the screen. The spoke. Its voice was like rocks grinding together. Small station, weak creatures. I am Commander Torais of the Dominion. You will surrender your research data. You will surrender 20 of your people as slaves. If you do this, we will let the rest of you live. If you do not do this, we will kill everyone and take what we want anyway. Commander Torres smiled. It was not a kind smile. You have 1 hour to decide. The screen went dark. The control room erupted in terror. Were screaming and holding each other. Some fainted. Some ran to their rooms to hide. There was no hope. They had no weapons. They had no shields that could stop cannons. They had nothing. Vel stood alone at the console. Tears ran down Vel's face. The researcher thought about family thought about friends, thought about all the things that would never happen now. Then Vel saw something. A small button on the console. It was covered in dust. No one had ever pressed it. Above the button were words in old script. Emergency beacon, all frequencies. It was a distress signal, an SOS. It would broadcast their location and their situation to anyone who might hear it, anyone in the galaxy. But who would come? They were too powerful. Other species were too afraid. Sending a signal was pointless. No one would risk their own ships to save a small station of researchers. And yet, Vel pressed the button. The beacon activated. A signal shot out into space at faster than light speed. It carried a simple message. We are under attack. We need help, please. Anyone help us. The signal traveled through the darkness. It passed dead worlds and empty systems. It crossed the borders of species that heard it and looked away. The heard it and did nothing. The heard it and pretended they did not. The great empires of the galaxy heard a small voice crying for help, and they turned off their receivers. No one wanted to fight The signal kept traveling. It went farther than Vel expected. It reached the edge of known space. It crossed into territory that most species avoided. Human territory. Deep in Terran space, in a sector called the Iron March, a massive warship detected the signal. The ship was called the Indomitable. It was the flagship of the Terran 7th Expeditionary Fleet. The fleet had 42 warships. They were returning home from a long patrol. They were tired. They wanted rest. But they heard the signal. Captain Park read the message on her screen. She was a woman of 40 years with short black hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She did not smile often. She was smiling now, but it was not a happy smile. "Admiral," she said, "you need to see this." Admiral walked to her station. He was an older man with gray in his hair and scars on his face. He had commanded fleets for 30 years. He had fought in wars that other species only heard about in nightmares. He read the message. "Research station," he said quietly. "Raiders, 30 ships." "It is not our problem," said one of the officers. "They are not our allies. We have no treaty with them." Admiral was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the stars outside the window. He thought about the scared creatures on that station. He thought about what they would do to them. "Set course for the station," he said. "Maximum speed." "Sir, our orders are to return to base." Admiral turned to look at the officer. His eyes were cold. "Someone asked for help. We are going to help them." The fleet changed course. Engines roared to life. 42 human warships turned toward a distant system where a small station waited to die. On the Vel sat in the darkness and waited. The hour was almost over. They were getting closer. Hope was gone. Vel did not know that help was coming. Vel did not know what kind of help was coming. If Vel had known, perhaps the researcher would have been more scared of the rescuers than the raiders. Because the humans were coming, and the humans did not show mercy to those who hurt the innocent. The deadliest fleet in the galaxy had heard the call. The hour ended. Commander Torres sat in his captain's chair and smiled his ugly smile. He loved this moment. The moment before the killing began. The moment when prey realized there was no escape. Around the station, 30 warships moved into attack formation. They were big ships with heavy armor and powerful weapons. Each one could destroy a city in minutes. Together, they could burn a planet. Torres opened a channel to the station. "Your time is up, little creatures. What is your answer? Will you give us what we want, or will you make us take it?" On the station, Vel stood at the console. The other looked at the researcher with desperate eyes. They wanted Vel to say something, to do something, to save them. But Vel had nothing to give. 20 of their people as slaves. That was not possible. They did not believe in slavery. They could not hand over their friends and family to be sold like objects. "We cannot do what you ask," Vel said. The researcher's voice was shaking. "Please, we are scientists. We have done nothing to you. Just leave us alone." Commander Torres laughed. It was a terrible sound. "You have done something. You exist. You have things we want. That is enough." He turned to his weapons officer. "Destroy their main engines first, then their life support. Let them freeze slowly. It will be fun to watch." The weapons officer nodded and reached for the firing controls. Then the alarm started screaming. Every ship in the fleet detected it at the same time. Massive energy signatures. Something was coming out of faster than light travel. Something big. "What is that?" Torres demanded. "Who is that?" No one could answer. The signatures were too large. There were too many of them. And then space tore open. Light exploded across the darkness. Holes ripped in the fabric of reality itself. Through those holes came ships, human ships. 42 warships emerged from faster than light travel in perfect formation. They were not like ships. They were sleek and dark like predators from deep water. Their hulls were black with red lights that looked like angry eyes. Their weapons were not meant to threaten. They were meant to kill. The flagship Indomitable led the formation. It was the largest ship they had ever seen. It was covered in scars from old battles, victories. The humans did not repair those scars. They kept them as trophies. Commander Torres stared at the new fleet. His 4 eyes went wide with something he had not felt in a long time. Fear. Humans, one of his officers whispered. Those are human warships. Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans. They were a young species. They had only been in space for a few hundred years. But in that short time, they had built an empire that made older civilizations nervous. The stories about humans were terrifying. They said humans evolved on a death world, a planet with extreme temperatures, dangerous animals, and constant disasters. They said humans were the only species on their world that survived by being more dangerous than everything else. They said humans had fought wars among themselves for thousands of years, wars so brutal that other species could not even imagine them. They said humans never forgot. They said humans never forgave. They said that if you hurt someone a human cared about, they would chase you across the entire galaxy to make you pay. And now they were here. A communication request appeared on Commander Torai's screen. He accepted it. A human face appeared. It was a woman with short black hair and cold eyes. She wore a military uniform. Her expression was calm, too calm. Fleet, this is Captain Park of the Terran Navy vessel Indomitable. We received a distress signal from the research station. Her voice was flat, professional. There was no anger in it. Somehow, that was more frightening than shouting would have been. You have 60 seconds to withdraw from this system. This is your only warning. Torai stared at her. For a moment he could not speak. Then his pride took over. He was Commander Torais of the Dominion. He had burned cities. He had enslaved thousands. He did not run from anyone. Human, he growled. Do you know who I am? Do you know what we have done? We have conquered 100 worlds. We have defeated fleets twice your size. Go back to your own territory or we will destroy you. Captain did not react. Her face did not change. 50 seconds, she said. Torais felt his anger rising. How dare this creature threaten him? They were warriors. They were feared across the galaxy. They did not take orders from anyone. Attack them, Torais shouted to his fleet. Show these humans what happens when they challenge the warships opened fire. Plasma cannons roared. Missiles launched. A wave of destruction flew toward the human fleet. The humans did not move. They did not try to dodge. They just sat there. Then their shields lit up. The weapons hit walls of blue energy. They exploded harmlessly against barriers that did not even flicker. Not one human ship took damage. Not one. On the Indomitable, Captain looked at her tactical officer. Lieutenant was a young man with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. He had already calculated everything. Target solution ready, he said. Captain nodded. Fire. What happened next would become legend. On the station, Vel watched through the observation window. The researcher saw the human ships light up with weapons fire, but it was not like the attack. It was not wild and angry. It was precise, surgical. Lines of white light shot from the human. They moved too fast for eyes to follow. They hit the ships in exactly the right places. Reactors, engines, ammunition storage. The first ship exploded, then the second, then the third. Missiles followed the fire. They were smart missiles. They dodged countermeasures. They flew past shields. They hit weak points that no one knew existed. More explosions, more death. Vel could not look away. They had never seen violence like this. They did not know it was possible. The fleet that had seemed so unstoppable was being torn apart like paper in a storm. Commander Torais screamed orders that no one could follow. His bridge was on fire. His shields were gone. His weapons were offline. He looked at the human ships and saw his death coming. Retreat, he finally shouted. All ships retreat. But it was too late. The humans did not let them run. Every ship that tried to escape was hunted down. Every engine that fired was targeted. There was no mercy. There was no negotiation. There was only destruction. Vel watched the last ship break apart. It happened in silence. In space, no one could hear the screaming. The battle had lasted 12 minutes, 30 warships destroyed, 0 human losses. Vel fell to the floor. The others were crying, but these were not tears of fear anymore. They were tears of relief, tears of shock, tears of something else that Vel could not name. The communication screen lit up again. The same human face appeared. Captain Park. Station, this is the Terran Navy. The threat has been eliminated. We are sending medical and repair teams to assist you. Her voice was still calm, still professional, as if she had not just committed the most one-sided slaughter the galaxy had ever witnessed. Help is here, she said. Vel stared at the screen. The researcher wanted to thank her, wanted to ask why, wanted to understand. But the words would not come. Because Vel was starting to realize something. They had called for help, and help had come. But the creatures who came to save them were more terrifying than the monsters they had just destroyed. The humans had saved them, but now Vel understood why the galaxy feared them. And the researcher did not know if that was a good thing or a very, very bad thing. Far away from the battlefield, someone was watching. Ambassador Solon sat in his private ship and stared at the data screens. He was a species known for their intelligence and their caution. They had watched the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had seen species evolve and die. They thought they had seen everything. They had never seen anything like this. Solon had been monitoring the raid as part of his duties for the Galactic Council. The Council was supposed to keep peace in the galaxy. In reality, the Council mostly watched things happen and wrote reports about them. They were good at writing reports. But Solon was not thinking about reports now. He was thinking about what he had just witnessed. 12 minutes. The battle had lasted 12 minutes. 30 warships, the terror of 100 systems, destroyed in less time than it took to eat a meal. The humans had not even tried hard. Their ships moved with practiced ease. Their weapons fired with perfect accuracy. It was not a battle, it was an execution. Solon pulled up the tactical data again. He needed to understand. The human ships used weapons that should not exist. They fired metal at speeds that broke physics. Their missiles had guidance systems that adapted and learned during flight. Their shields were so strong that plasma cannons did nothing to them. And their tactics. Solon had studied military history for 200 years. He had never seen coordination like this. The human ships moved as one creature with 42 bodies. Every attack was planned. Every movement was calculated. There was no waste, no mistakes. Lieutenant on the Indomitable had commanded the tactical assault. Solon pulled up the officer's file. Young, brilliant, and terrifying in a way that Solon could not explain. The young human had destroyed an entire fleet while barely raising his voice. Solon leaned back in his chair. His hands were shaking. They had been watching humans since they first left their planet. At first, the Council had not been worried. Humans were primitive. They were young. They had silly conflicts among themselves. The older species thought they would burn themselves out like so many others. But they did not burn out. They grew stronger, they united, and they started building. Human shipyards worked day and night. Human scientists pushed the boundaries of technology. Human soldiers trained with an intensity that other species called madness. In just 300 years, they had gone from new arrivals to one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. And no one had done anything to stop them. Solon remembered the debates in the council chambers. Some species wanted to contain the humans, limit their expansion, control their technology, but no one wanted to be the one to try, because everyone knew what humans did to enemies. They won always at any cost. The humans had a saying that other species whispered in dark corners. Humanity does not start fights. Humanity finishes them. Today they had finished, though. Solon switched to another screen. He was receiving reports from across the galaxy. Word of the battle was spreading. The Dominion had already issued a statement. They were withdrawing from 3-star systems. They wanted nothing more to do with human space. Other species were reacting too. They were nervous. They were in shock. Even the great empires were paying attention. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. Why did the humans come? They had no treaty with Earth. They had never even met humans before. There was no profit in saving them, no strategic advantage. The logical thing would have been to ignore the distress signal like everyone else. But humans were not logical, not in the way other species understood logic. Solon pulled up a file he had read many times. It was a study of human psychology. They had been trying to understand humans for generations. They had made some progress, but some things still made no sense. Humans had a concept called justice. Other species had similar ideas, but humans took it further. They believed that wrong should be punished, that the weak should be protected, that evil should be destroyed. These were not just thoughts to them. They were laws written in their souls. When a human saw someone hurting an innocent person, something happened in their brain, something ancient. Something from their time on that death world they called Earth. They did not think about cost or benefit. They did not calculate odds. They just acted. And when they acted, people died. Solon closed the file. He understood now. The humans had come because someone asked for help. That was it. That was the entire reason. A small station of scientists had sent a desperate message, and the humans had crossed half the galaxy to answer it. It was simple, it was noble, and it was absolutely terrifying. Because it meant humans would fight anyone for any reason if they believed it was right. There was no predicting them, no controlling them. They followed their own moral code, and that code said protect the innocent and punish the guilty. They had hurt innocents, so the humans had punished them with fire and metal and death. Solon started writing his report to the council. He did not know what to recommend. He did not know what could be done. The humans were too strong, too unpredictable, too dangerous. But they were also too necessary. The galaxy was not a kind place. There were species like the everywhere, raiders and slavers and conquerors who preyed on the weak. The council could not stop them. The older empires would not stop them. Only the humans would stop them. Solon thought about on that station. They were safe now. They were alive because humans had chosen to save them. In a galaxy of species that looked away from suffering, the humans had looked directly at it and said no. Perhaps that was worth the fear. Solon finished his report. His conclusion was simple. The humans are not our enemies, but they are not our friends either. They are something else, something the galaxy has never seen before. They are protectors, but they are also destroyers. And we should be very, very careful about which one we become to them. He sent the report and turned off his screens. In the darkness of his ship, Solon looked at the stars and wondered what would happen next. The humans had answered one distress call. There would be others. There were always others. And now every species in the galaxy knew that if they called, the humans might come. That was either the best news possible or the worst. Solon did not know which. He did not think anyone did. But he knew one thing for certain. The galaxy would never be the same. The space battle was over, but the fighting was not finished. Sargent stood in the launch bay of the Indomitable and checked her weapon one more time. It was a human assault rifle, black metal, efficient design. It had killed many enemies. It would kill more today. Around her, the Black Wolves prepared for war. They were the elite Marine unit of the 7th Fleet, 12 soldiers, the best of the best. Each one had survived battles that would break normal soldiers. Each one was a weapon in human form. The intelligence reports were clear. Before the fleet arrived, boarding parties had landed on the station. At least 40 warriors were inside. They had taken hostages. They were waiting. Captain's voice came through the communication system. "Sergeant, we have confirmed 43 soldiers on the station. They are holding civilians in the Central Research Wing. Rules of engagement are simple. Protect the civilians. Eliminate the enemy." Nodded even though the captain could not see her. "Understood. Black wolves moving out." The shuttle launched from the Indomitable and flew toward the station. Inside, the Marines were silent. They did not need to talk. They had trained together for years. They knew each other's movements, each other's thoughts. They were a pack and was their leader. The shuttle connected to the station's emergency airlock. The door opened. The wolves went inside. The station was dark. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. The air smelled like smoke and fear. Somewhere deeper in the station could hear crying, and she could hear laughing. She made a hand signal. The team split into 3 groups. They moved through the corridors like ghosts. No sound, no wasted movement. The wolves were hunting. Specialist was at side. He was the team's medic. He carried medicine and bandages alongside his weapons. His job was to heal the wounded after the fighting stopped, but right now he was a soldier like the rest of them. They found the first group in a storage room, 4 warriors. They were eating food they had stolen from the station. They were laughing about what they would do to the prisoners. They stopped laughing very quickly. His team moved in silence. They did not even see them coming. 4 shots, 4 bodies, it was over in seconds. The team moved on. They found more in the corridors. Some were patrolling. Some were searching rooms for valuables. None of them expected humans. None of them were prepared for what happened. The Black Wolves were not just good soldiers. They were artists of death. They knew exactly where to hit, exactly when to strike, exactly how to kill without making sound. By the time the main force knew something was wrong, half their number was already dead. Reached the Central Research Wing. Through the door, she could see the hostage situation. 23 scientists huddled in the center of the room. Around them stood the remaining warriors, 15 of them. Their leader was a big brute with scars on his face and blood on his hands. The leader was shouting at the, "Where is your commander? We know you called for help. Tell us who is coming or we start killing." They were too scared to speak. One of them, an older scientist, tried to say something. The leader hit her across the face. She fell to the ground bleeding. Felt something cold rise in her chest. It was anger, but not hot anger, cold anger, the kind that made her deadly. She gave the signal. The Black Wolves attacked from 3 directions at once. They had no time to react. The first 5 died before they could raise their weapons. The next 3 died trying to shoot back. Their bullets hit nothing. The humans moved too fast. The leader grabbed one of the hostages, a young researcher. He held a knife to the hostage's throat. "Stop," he screamed. "Stop or I kill this one." The other Marines froze, but did not stop. She walked toward the leader with her rifle still raised. Her eyes were cold. "Let the hostage go," she said. Her voice was calm, flat, terrifying. The leader pressed the knife harder against the hostage's neck. A thin line of blood appeared. I will kill it right now." Kept walking. "You have 3 seconds to release the hostage. After that, I will kill you, and I will make it hurt." The leader looked at her. He saw something in her eyes that made his courage disappear. These humans were not like other species. They did not negotiate. They did not show fear. They just killed. He threw the hostage away and raised his hands. "I surrender, I surrender." Lowered her rifle. For a moment the leader felt relief. Then remembered that he had hit, the blood on his hands, the fear in the hostage's eyes. She said, "Take care of the hostages." The medic moved toward the scared. He knelt beside them and spoke softly. His voice was gentle, kind. He checked their wounds. He gave them water. He promised them they were safe now. The same hands that had killed 3 warriors moments ago were now holding the hands of terrified scientists, comforting them, healing them. They could not understand this. How could the same creature be so violent and so gentle? How could someone who killed without hesitation also care so deeply about strangers? Watched work, then she turned to the prisoner. "What should we do with you?" she asked. The leader was shaking now. All his bravery was gone. "Please, mercy, I was just following orders." Looked at him for a long moment. "You hit a defenseless person. You threatened to kill an innocent. You enslaved and murdered across 100 systems." She stepped closer. "There is no mercy for you." Later, the Black Wolves secured the station. All eliminated, all hostages safe. Mission complete. Admiral came aboard to inspect the situation. Vel met him in the main corridor. The researcher was still shaking from everything that had happened. "Why?" Vel asked. The question had been burning inside since the battle ended. "Why did you come? We have nothing to offer you. We are not your allies. Why would you risk your soldiers for us?" Admiral looked at the small gray alien. He thought about how to explain. Then he realized there was no complicated answer. "Because you asked for help," he said simply. "That is enough." Vel stared at him. In the galaxy, no one did anything for free. Everyone wanted something: power, resources, influence. No species helped others without expecting payment. Except humans. "I do not understand you," Vel said quietly. "You are terrifying. Your soldiers kill without hesitation. Your weapons could destroy planets, but you came to save strangers." Admiral almost smiled. Almost. "That is what humans do," he said. "We protect the innocent, we punish the guilty. It is simple." Vel watched him walk away. The researcher thought about the soldiers who had saved them, the violence they were capable of, the kindness they showed after. Perhaps that was what made humans so dangerous. Not their weapons, not their ships, not their training. It was that they cared. They cared so much that they would cross the galaxy to save strangers, and they cared so much that they would kill anyone who hurt those strangers. They had called for help, and monsters had come to save them. Gentle monsters, violent protectors, human contradictions. Vel did not know what to think anymore. 1 week passed, then 1 month, then 1 year. The story of the station spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Everyone heard it, everyone talked about it, and everyone was afraid. The Dominion changed overnight. The raiders who had terrorized 100 systems suddenly became very quiet. They from 3 star systems. They stopped attacking stations near human space. Their leaders spoke in soft voices about peace and cooperation. No one believed them. Everyone knew the truth. They were not peaceful, they were scared. 30 warships destroyed in 12 minutes. Their best warriors killed by a small team of human soldiers. They had thought they were the strongest predators in the galaxy. Now they knew better. There was always a bigger predator, and the biggest predator was called humanity. Other species reacted differently. They sent ambassadors to Earth. They wanted trade agreements. They wanted friendship. They wanted humans to like them. They watched from a distance and wrote more reports. Their conclusion was always the same: do not provoke the humans. Do not give them a reason to come for you. The Galactic Council held many meetings. Some members wanted to contain humanity, to limit their expansion, to control their weapons. These members talked loudly and made strong arguments. Ambassador Solon listened to all of them. Then he spoke. "Who among you will enforce these limits? Who will send their fleet to stop the humans?" The room went silent. "That is what I thought," Solon said. "We cannot control them. We can only hope they remain on our side." No one argued with him. They became celebrities. Reporters from 100 worlds visited there. They all wanted to know the same thing. What was it like? What are the humans really like? Vel was asked this question more than anyone. The researcher who had pressed the distress button. The one who had spoken with Admiral. The first to meet humans face to face. At first, Vel did not know how to answer. The memories were too fresh, too confusing. How could anyone describe the humans? But eventually, Vel found the words. "They are monsters," Vel would say. "The most dangerous species the galaxy has ever known. Their weapons are terrible. Their soldiers are without mercy. When they fight, they do not stop until their enemies are destroyed." Reporters would nod. This was what they expected. This confirmed the stories. Then Vel would continue. "But they came for us. When no one else would come, they came. When the entire galaxy looked away, they crossed the stars to save strangers. They fought for us. Some of them died for us. And when it was over, they asked for nothing." Vel would pause. The researcher's large eyes would grow distant with memory. "Their medic held my hand while I cried. Their admiral spoke to me with respect. Their soldiers carried our wounded to safety as gently as if they were carrying their own children." Another pause. "If that is what monsters are, then perhaps the galaxy needs more monsters." The reporters never knew what to do with this answer. It did not fit the simple story they wanted to tell. Humans were not just killers. They were not just saviors. They were both. They were everything. They were a contradiction that made no sense. But Vel understood now. After a year of thinking about it, the researcher finally understood. Humans were not complicated. They were actually very simple. They had rules, old rules, rules written in their nature before they ever left their dangerous planet. Protect the innocent, punish the guilty, answer when someone calls for help. Everything else followed from these simple rules. The violence was not cruelty. It was protection. The kindness was not weakness. It was strength. The humans were exactly what they appeared to be. They just appeared to be something the galaxy had never seen before. On the Indomitable, life continued as normal. Admiral read reports. Captain ran training exercises. Sergeant kept her soldiers sharp. The Seventh Fleet patrolled the borders of human space and watched the stars. They did not think of themselves as heroes. They did not see the battle as anything special. They had done their job. They had answered a call for help. That was all. But the galaxy saw them differently now. Every species knew that if they were in trouble, they could send a signal. And maybe, if they were lucky, the humans would hear. The Deadliest fleet would come. The monsters who protected the weak would arrive. That knowledge changed everything. Slavers thought twice before attacking stations. Raiders avoided systems near human space. Tyrants who had ruled through fear started looking over their shoulders, because now there was something to fear more than them. Humanity was not everywhere. They could not save everyone, but the possibility of their arrival was enough. The idea that humans might come was sometimes as powerful as the humans themselves. Some species complained. They said it was not fair. They said humans should not be the galaxy's protectors. They said no one species should have so much power. But those species never offered to do the job themselves. On a quiet night, Admiral stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable. The stars stretched out before him. Billions of lights, billions of worlds, billions of stories. Captain joined him. "We received another distress signal," she said. "A colony on the frontier, pirates, 300 civilians." Was quiet for a moment. "How far?" 2 days at maximum speed." Any other response? "None. The local defense force was destroyed. They are alone." Looked at the stars. He thought about the people on that colony, scared, hopeless, sending a message into the darkness and praying someone would hear. "Set course," he said. "Maximum speed." Nodded. She had known what his answer would be. It was always the same answer. It would always be the same answer. Because that was what humans did. They answered the call, every time, without fail, without asking for reward. They came because someone needed help, and that was enough. The Indomitable turned toward the distant colony. The fleet followed. Engines roared to life. Weapons powered up. Somewhere in the darkness, pirates were celebrating their easy victory. They thought they had won. They thought they were safe. They did not know what was coming. The deadliest fleet in the galaxy was on the move. The protectors, the destroyers, the contradiction that the galaxy could not understand but was learning to respect. The humans were coming, and they would answer every call, every signal, every cry for help. Because the galaxy needed monsters, good monsters, monsters who cared. And humanity would always answer. Always. The stars stretched out forever, full of danger, full of hope, full of stories yet to be told. And in the darkness between worlds, a fleet of human ships flew toward another battle, another rescue, another legend. The SOS had called the deadliest fleet in the galaxy. And the deadliest fleet had answered, just as they always would. The end.